Hello, friends. My name is Heather Gill. I'm a certified hypnotherapist, certified life coach, author, and self-proclaimed practical optimist. And today I'm going to reference one of the stories in my book, Reflections on Life and Living. And that story falls under the category of sometimes the least of us are the best of us. Now, if you've tuned in before, you know I've worked with troubled children, developmentally delayed children, and children with special needs, both in the public school system and in psychiatric lockdown. Now, these kids are looked down upon by most of society because they're unable to function in the same way that we do. Quite frankly, a lot of them are wired differently, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a sense of humanity and compassion. In fact, there are a lot of myths out there about how they don't have a conscience, how they can't form attachments to other people, and so on. And while that may be true for the rare individual, it's also true of us neurotypical people. And today's story was near and dear to my heart because it's about forgiveness and making amends when we make a mistake. One day I was in the classroom and I was monitoring the kids during some of their free time. It was after lunch and raining, of course, because in Oregon it does that more often than not. And they were playing in the classroom. Well, one of the little girls came in with a spork that she had kept back with her from the cafeteria where she was just eating lunch. So she comes into the classroom and she's kind of skipping around, in her own little world, talking to the spork and singing to it and kind of skipping around the room. And all of a sudden, one of the boys ran up, grabs the spork, and breaks it right in front of her eyes. And there was like a hush that fell over the room. And she looked at him and she started screaming and crying. And she came up, Mrs. Gill, look at what so-and-so did to my spork. And it wasn't just a spork to her. It was kind of like a little treasure that she brought back from lunch, which normally they're not able to do. So I called the boy over and I said, come here. I said, look at her face. What is she doing? And he said, she's crying. And I said, do you know why she's crying? He looked at her and looked at me. No. And I said, look at this. You broke this. Yeah. Why did you break it? I don't know, I just broke it. And I said, that was her treasure. That was her little friend. And you hurt it, you broke it. What do you need to say to her? And he looked at her and tears were starting to come down his face. He goes, I'm sorry. And the little girl just kept crying. And so he ran off. And I could tell he felt bad. He was crying and he said sorry. And we kind of talked about how he would feel if someone broke one of his toys. Well, I got distracted by something the other kids were doing, so my attention went there. And all of a sudden, I heard this screech, you know, the happy screech that little girls have when they're like first or second grade. She screeched and giggled and laughed and said, "Come on." And she and the boy were kind of scampering around the classroom. And he was talking to her and so on. She comes up, "Mrs. Gill, Mrs. Gill, guess what?" And I said, "What, honey?" And she goes, "Look." And she held up her spork. And there was tape wrapped all around where it was broken. And that almost made me cry. Because this kid doesn't normally do that. I mean, he's not a little stinker or anything. But he saw that something he did upset his friend. And I believe he truly didn't know why or what he did. Once it was explained to him, he did his dead level best to make it right. And this is something that has stuck in my mind for a few years now. That here, this child, who most people thought was incorrigible, he'll never be able to function in a regular classroom. He can't learn. He can't make attachments. He won't feel sorry when he does something wrong. That's how most people think of these kids, a step above animals. But they're not. That child had this bright, shining moment where he got it. And his humanity and compassion shone through after he got it. And it's something that I think we can all learn from. Meaning, if we make a mistake, if we damage property or hurt someone's feelings or spill something on an outfit someone let us borrow, that we can say we're sorry. And hopefully, grace will be extended to us in that we will be forgiven when we truly mean that we're sorry and we try to make amends and make it better. And like I said, this story stuck with me for a long time because a lot of times people think of others who have special needs, that have autism, that have behavior problems, that, you know, are developmentally delayed. A lot of times people think of them as being less than human, but they're not. Our humanity isn't just for normal folks. It's for everyone. And it was an incredibly powerful moment for me and for everybody else in the classroom. And I hope you understand. And maybe this week you can apologize when you've done wrong, or you can accept someone else's forgiveness, because there's two parts. The person who did wrong, saying they're sorry or making amends for what they did wrong. And the second part is acceptance, saying, "I forgive you," or "It's okay, you made it better." And as soon as she said that to him, they were little friends again. They were happy and joyful, and the moment passed when, you know, there was the person who did wrong and the person who forgave them. It was over in less than 30 seconds. But as you can see, it stuck with me. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. As always, thank you so much for watching my videos. I really appreciate it, and it matters, and I hope that it helps you see the world in a little bit brighter and kinder light. And I hope that you walk forward today with your shoulders back and your head held high, and you're not looking back, because as you know, we're not going that way. We're walking forward on our path into a new day. And again, my name is Heather Gill. I wrote this book called Reflections on Life and Living, and it's worth a good read. I may be a little bit biased, but it is a pretty good read and a pretty quick one. And it can be found either on Amazon or on my website, which is www.heathergill.lifecoaching.com. And there are also ways to reach us on there. So reach out. If you want to sit and talk, we can do that. If you just want to make a comment or a suggestion about future videos, please feel free to do so. And thank you.